What is domestication and what are the benefits? Domesticating animals in Vintage Story involves catching one male and one female of a species and then feeding them until they mate and give birth, then duplicating that process with their offspring until you've hit the 10th generation. The benefits of domesticating animals are that they will no longer run away when you approach, giving you access to easy and reliable meat, skins, and fat. Also, milk is only obtainable from domesticated animals such as goats and sheep. Also, if you make a butcher knife, then you can slaughter a domesticated animal in one strike, eliminating the need to chase or fight animals. Now that we've talked about what domestication is and its benefits, let's discuss capturing wild animals, transporting them, and feeding and breeding them. First of all, capturing wild animals is one of the trickiest parts of the taming process. Now, there are mods that will help you if you get frustrated, such as the Animal Cages mod and the Capture Animals mod, but remember, it's totally doable in vanilla if you have a little bit of patience. You can, first of all, use a reed basket trap to catch small game such as hares and chickens, or the offspring of larger animals, and transport them back to your base. Just keep in mind that you'll have to use the appropriate bait for the animal you're trying to catch, and we're going to talk about animal feeds later in the video. Now, the basket trap must be worn in a backpack slot. You can't just put the filled trap in your inventory. It's similar to how you transport a filled bee scap. So keep that in mind. Also, once you've captured the animal and it's in the reed basket trap, you only have 24 hours before the animal dies, so act quickly. The rope can also be used to tie up animals and even to lead them. This is a new thing that's been added in a recent update. I personally have not tried this, but the wiki does recommend if you use a rope to go slowly, otherwise you can break the binding to the animal. Also, you can use the chase and lure method. Build a pen using fences and make sure to leave a few sections unbuilt. Then set up a trough with the appropriate food and move away until your target animal goes into the trap and eats the food, then move in and finish off the fence, thus capturing the animal. Chasing certain animals like chickens and goats, which have natural fear, and forcing them into an waiting animal pen is also viable, and you can even get some animals to chase you if you strike them, but that could be risky. Okay, so now you have captured a male and female. You want to move them back to your base. One method is to simply leave the animals where you find them and wait for them to reproduce so the offspring can be moved more easily in a basket trap. Another method is to build what they call a run, a very long, narrow fence line where you can guide the animals to their desired location. Also, don't forget about the rope, but if your base is very far away from where you've captured the animals, then it might be best to just leave them in place, set up a camp nearby, feed them until they have an offspring, and then transport that back in a reed basket trap. Now let's talk husbandry. Breeding animals takes lots of food and, of course, patience. In today's video, we're going to be talking about hares, chickens, pigs, sheep, and goats. There are a few other animals that can be domesticated in the world, like the muskox, but actually many of them will fall into one of the animal families I've already mentioned, like the goat. If you're unsure, just check the wiki for a specific animal. And of course, many of the animals you'll come across in the game cannot be tamed, at least not without mods, such as bears, wolves, foxes, raccoons, even gazelles cannot be tamed. So now let's cover the feeding details. Pigs eat from a large trough and will accept most foods that can fit inside of the trough, except for rice and hay. Each adult pig needs 10 portions to be ready to mate. Sheep eat from a large trough and will accept hay, all types of grain except for rice, and all types of veggies except for parsnips. They will also eat fruit mash, and each adult needs 10 portions to be ready to mate. Goats eat from a large trough and accept the exact same foods as sheep. They also need 10 portions per adult to be ready to mate. Chickens eat from small troughs and will only eat grain. Keep in mind that flax grain is best for animals because of its low satiety, but spelt and rye will also work. Chickens also require a hen box to lay eggs. A hen must be fully fed and have a rooster nearby to lay fertile eggs. Keep in mind that it is best to build your wild chicken pen somewhat away from your main dwelling. When the player is close, the hens will be frightened and they will move off of their hen boxes and run, thus extending the time it takes for eggs to hatch. Hares eat from a large trough and will consume any vegetable. Hares need 2 portions to be ready to mate. Now, a couple of very important facts to remember about your animals. Number 1, they can despawn if they're kept in total darkness for too long. So if you have an enclosure with no windows or natural lighting from a skylight, make sure you're slapping down a torch or using an oil lamp or even a lantern to keep your animals from despawning in the dark. Feeding animals is not necessary to keep them alive. They can survive in a pen or a barn indefinitely without food, but of course you will need it for breeding. And if you notice the weight, that weight is also affected by how much food they eat, and it will have a direct impact on how much meat, skin, and fat the animal drops when you finally butcher it. The offspring's generation count comes strictly from the mother. The male's generation has no effect on the babies. So essentially you can keep the same male right from the start and just cull the lower generations of females as you go. Also, males only need to be within 10 blocks of a female to mate. So you can literally keep your male in a separate pen, just as I have here, to protect it during the culling process so you don't actually hit it. And as long as it has its own food trough, it will be able to mate with the nearby females. And that covers animal taming in Vintage Story. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject down in the comments. Also, if there's any details that I might have missed, please let me know down below. Always enjoy hearing from you guys for sure. Make sure you hit the like button if this video was helpful to you. And if you'd like more Vintage Story content in the future, subscribe to the channel. Thanks everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.